Welcome back. Last week we started an amazingly interesting discussion. We had with us on set Professor Echendu Dolly Adinma, the Director for the Center for Sustainable Development of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. She took us through the Sustainable Development Goals. She told us about the center and the many important things the center is doing. But there's a great deal more. Under her leadership, the center is running full steam and already implementing so many wonderful initiatives. Please join us. Let us continue to listen to Professor Echendu Adinma.
We've been able to also mount a workshop on grant writing, mainly for our research associates, even though we threw open to the university community, other lecturers from other faculties to come and listen. At that workshop, we're listening to experts in fund proposal writing, building funding for good grants reports. So we did that, and we followed it up with a university-based debate among the undergraduates on the attainment of Agenda 2030.
What is the Agenda 2030?
Is it a mirage or a possibility? 2023, we are at the midpoint of the SDGs. So the agenda is looking at by 2030, which is the end of SDG, we will be able to achieve all the 17 goals, all the 169 targets, and the 232 indicators.
And what was the winning argument?
It was a win-win or no loser situation for the students.
Okay.
Yeah. We said, audience, take it back and know who is the actual winner. But we didn't pronounce a winner. And you know the direction it could have gone if you were there. Those who said we are not going to achieve Agenda 2030 by the year 2030 made the higher points. But just to pacify the students, there were 10 of them who said it's a win-win situation.
Everybody won?
Yes.
Well, that's very interesting because recently, of course, we're all aware of the fact that there was an UNGA, what we call the UN General Assembly, which traditionally takes place in September. And the world leaders, including our leader, went to the UN to talk about their progress towards those SDGs.
Okay.
And I am reliably informed that they all admitted that we were not on track, that the world as a global community is not on track towards achieving the SDGs.
Yeah.
So this is not go home, no winner. Somebody won and somebody lost.
Somebody actually won because they looked at how COVID-19 has really marred the progress of the Agenda 2023. So, in fact, we did that just barely a week before the UN General Assembly because we got sponsorship from one of the UN agencies to mount that debate. Precisely, the United Nations Information Center gave us support to conduct that debate, and they thought they could also use the findings of the debates and go to New York a week later. So, having concluded with the university-based debates on attainment of SDG in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, we moved on to mount a summit on sustainable development.
Wow, I heard through the grapevine a great deal about that summit.
Okay.
It was truly a historic one. Please tell us about it.
Very, very historic indeed, because that summit was the first Southeast Regional Summit on SDG. the first to be mounted
That
in
is
the
Southeast Nigeria. Before people,
Yeah.
the audience, there are many Southeasts.
Southeast Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yeah, it was the first ever regional summit on sustainable development. The theme of the summit was SDGs. What are the challenges? What are the gains? And what are the prospects of SDG? The summit took place from the 31st of August of this year to 3rd of September.
Okay.
And it's held in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, drawing participants from all over the states of the Southeast. Anambra State being the host state, Abia State, Enugu, Ebonyi, and Imo State. So we got participants, over 500 participants participated, even though 58 were joined us virtually. And that summit was co-sponsored by the United Nations in Nigeria. The resident coordinator of the UN, Matthias Mell, joined us virtually. The director, or rather chief of mission of International Organization on Migration, Laurent Deboc, a Frenchman here in Nigeria, the chief of mission in Nigeria, also joined us virtually. The International Labour Organization was represented physically. She was on ground by Violeta Chinyangarara, who is a special technical assistant to the director of ILO here in Abuja. UNIC also, United Nations Information Center, was our co-sponsor. They supported us copiously in terms of finance to run that kind of big conference. And I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to the UN in Nigeria, and thank you specifically to United Nations Information Center here in Nigeria. And the federal government was not left. The chairman of the occasion was the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, His Excellency Senator George Akume. Few days to our summit, the president asked him to represent him somewhere abroad. So he sent in an able representative in the person of his chief of staff, Professor Babatunde. He was there live. We also had the Senate President, His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio, as our distinguished guest. He too couldn't come physically because he was just in Anambra State few days before that ceremony for a social function, the burial of one of our politicians. So he couldn't stay back after the burial. So he sent in his chief of staff, Chief Sylvester Okonkwo, to represent him. Now for the state governments, for the 5 state governors, the host governor was not on site, but he was ably represented by 2 of his commissioners, the Commissioner of Health, Dr. Afamo Bidike, and the Commissioner of Environment. So Anambra State was quite well represented. Ebonyi State, Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor, Princess Ibila, was there live with the Chief of Staff to the Governor of Ebonyi State. We are very indebted to her for making it physically. Enugu State sent in his Commissioner for Education. So all the states were quite well represented. The other dignitaries, we had 3 Vice Chancellors, my own Vice Chancellor, who gave us the go-ahead to run the summit. He was there throughout, from 10 a.m. up to about 5 p.m. when we finished on the first day of the conference. So my Vice Chancellor was there, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Echendu was also there. Then the internal governing council members of my university were also present. We also had, as I said, a past vice chancellor, the immediate past vice chancellor of my university, Professor Joe Ahaneko. He was there with his amiable wife, who is our current dean of medicine. Two of them were there. And we had traditional rulers. For the host town, the Prime Minister of Oka was there with his cabinet. We had women leaders, women groups, students, youths, of course. So it was quite an interesting outing for us. In terms of presentations, we had over 40 paper presentations.
Let me just again interrupt you. You're about to go on to presentations. We want to hear that. But let me underscore the importance and why I have listened with keen interest to your listing the various groups that were there, that participated, because this is indeed the spirit of the sustainable development.
Exactly.
And the goals. It is the fact that all these various sectors in country and globally need to be actors. Development needs to be something that the various actors understand and are actively participating in.
Yeah.
So let me congratulate you for that, ab initio, for that ability at these critical times, at these hard times, to actually mobilize all those various sectors, the community, the government, the academia, and so on, to come for this important summit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the business world, we had top businessmen in attendance. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention them.
Don't mention them. Go on to your presentations.
Yes, it was quite an exciting outing. And then the scientific aspect of it, where we ran plenary sessions on presentation of abstracts. We had over 40 quality papers presented.
On second thoughts, do forgive me if I as the host, I'm allowed to change my mind.
Okay.
I think one of those private people was the one that generously donated towards moving this agenda forward. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of private individual needs to get recognized.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
changed my mind.
Thank you very much for giving me the audience to publicly acknowledge the contribution of Chief Kenneth Ifekodo. Abalanze Eze Onyekachukwu of Ozubulu. He's based there in Abuja. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Diamond Leads Company. This man single-handedly made a whopping donation of 30 million to the center.
Wow. I think that deserves a clap. Yeah.
Abalanze, thank you so much. Thank you very much. May our good Lord continue to bless you. You don't know what the seed you have sown in that center. A center that runs on very low budget. We don't have money coming in. So we generate monies from researchers, from funding, from philanthropists like him. So it was a good relief for us.
Let me sincerely join you actually in that acknowledgement and appreciation. I think a great deal of the solution to the problems in our country needs to come from the private sector, particularly private sector enterprise. And so we are touched. We join you in being grateful that as he has struggled to increase his own resources, he's found a place in his heart for generosity to this kind of issues. We say that with humility and understanding, because for us in Conversations for Change and on the stage, we have benefited immensely from, again, private sector enterprise. And so it's a wonderful example, one that needs to be showcased and announced when it's done, even as we all jointly call for more support from the private sector.
We still have other promises, and I believe in the next few days or weeks it will come to pass.
Amen.
Another philanthropist, Prince Interior, He's also based there in Abuja. He's made promises, and he says sooner or later he will hit our bank accounts.
Okay.
So I'm unable to say the amount he's also donated to the center. Apart from the financial aspects of what we were able to garner from that summit, I'm also deeply impressed by the show of love of the United Nations in Nigeria. As I talk to you today, a few days ago, I was in their offices trying to show appreciation and thank them, and they have graciously promised that they are going to further partner with Center for Sustainable Development in the Nnamdi Azikiwe University. They are ready to partner with us. We are going to have a very mutual collaboration with them. So I'm so grateful to them, especially for the directors that I was able to meet a few days ago. The Director, United Nations Information Center, Ronald Kayanja. I'm also grateful to my Swiss sister who is heading the International Labour Organization, Vanessa Fala, and her team, who also granted our audience a few days ago. And just yesterday, I had audience with the Chief of Mission of International Organization on Migration, a wonderful man, Laurent de Bock. Laurent, forgive me if I am not able to pronounce your French name correctly. He was quite welcoming when we went to his office yesterday, and he has even introduced us to areas where we need to look at issues of migration. When I got to the building, I saw a lineup of sea of human beings, young people, youths, queuing to have their test. I said to myself, am I going to join this queue? So the security man just said, are you here for another purpose? I said, yes. I asked him, what purpose are these people here, these young people? He said, this is an accredited center for people to be screened for all the health screening parameters they need to have before they travel abroad. Those of them that are migrating abroad.
It's a center where we're losing more of our young people.
Jackpa. So when I now interacted with the Chief of Mission, he said he's looking at universities helping them to draw up programs to educate our young ones on this issue of Jackpa. Where you are going to, whether you are going to UK, US, Canada, or anywhere, you don't know what you are going to meet there. So he says he's going to partner with my center so that we'll draw up a curriculum to educate our young people on what they should be envisaging to meet where they think they are going to have greener pastures. So we are going to work on a proposal to come up with a sort of training for our young people.
That is exciting. And as an organization ourselves, whose major mandate is young people, empowering young people. Let me say that we should be very interested in being a part of that.
Okay.
Because we have quite a large pool of young people. Many we support as they establish their businesses in the hope of making them more content in this country and not Japa. But also many other young people who need that information and that understanding of what Japan really means, and the fact that nowhere in the world is it easy. Some places are better than others, but everywhere it is tough. And therefore it's a lesson every young person needs to learn and understand. So when, do keep us in mind, it's something we will also find of interest.
He had promised he's going to send me their program of action, program of assistance, so that we'll look at it holistically. He also advised me to look at the recent UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework.
Which governs the action of all the country, all the agencies.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absorbing, but knowing that the program in the end has to have an end, let me just turn to two last things.
Okay.
One is to say, what are your challenges? You have just taken over recently. In the past few months, you've done a great deal. But what would you say are the major challenges for the center? And then, although many of it has come out in your discussion, but what is your envisioned way forward? So I think let's start with the challenges.
Okay. The challenges are enormous. Currently, we are housed under another center. In terms of accommodation, I have a very big problem on that. Currently, we are in the building called Echendu Center for Multidisciplinary Research. That building was graciously donated to the university by the family of late His Excellency, former Vice President of the nation, Dr. Echendu. So we are just managing in one section of that building. So accommodation is quite challenging to me. The other thing is finance. You have the vision, you have activities you want to mount, but the finance to conduct those exercises is quite challenging to me too. So mainly in the area of infrastructure, and I was saying to myself, before I leave this office, God helping, we'll have a building of our own. So I'm working very hard towards getting a facility, a building, whether it's coming from a private individual. My Vice Chancellor is ready to name such a building after the name of such a person who can give us such a donation. So I need a building, I need the finances to conduct most of the activities. I have the human resource, I have the manpower. My research associates are very willing to work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Adinma.
Thank you.
We admire your courage, because taking on roles like this and having this big vision of what you want to leave behind as your legacy, which includes this potentially beautiful structure that would provide you space for more efficiency, is a wonderful one. It's a courageous one. And knowing you, I have no doubt that in a few years' time, it will be done. It will be a fait accompli, as our French colleagues say. So thank you very much. And I am excited because I think this discussion and this understanding of what Professor Adinma is doing in her capacity as director for the Center for Sustainable Development of Nnamdi Azikiwe University is a beautiful example of the fact that every sector in country and out in the world needs to understand that the sustainable development is everybody's business. It can never be done by any one sector alone. And it's very important in an environment like the one she operates in, where young minds are brilliant young minds, whether as undergraduates or postgraduates, are being exposed at an early stage because of this initiative to the global agenda. Life is not just about what we are doing in our communities and in our country, but also how we as a nation operates on the global agenda. And so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful work.
Inviting me.
I would love to hear that every university in this country emulates and does that, so that more and more of our young people are inspired indeed to aspire to be on the global agenda and to compete favorably with the global world. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure too.
We pray and we'll keep cheering you on as you strive to achieve your very, very noble objectives.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for coming on the stage. And thank you to our viewers as we, on the stage, urge you all to join hands as part of the United Nations as we work to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you. See you next week.